have you talked about Paddy versus Ariel stuff? I did. No, I didn't. I got fully caught up on it. And I'm gonna tell you the same thing I told Ariel Helwani. Like, so for example, when you go on these interviews or podcasts or anything like that, nobody gets paid. I've never been paid to be on any interview. These implants are wired into the brain. Any of them. Joe Rogan's podcast, Barstool Sports. I mean, you name it. Never been paid to be on any podcast whatsoever. Ronnie Rodriguez dropping some dough and also becoming a member of the channel. Appreciate that. Right? And so, from my context, this is what I heard. From my context, and I don't know the whole story, but this is all I do know. I heard that Paddy Pimlet reached out to Ariel Helwani and said, hey, dude, I'm in New York City. If you want me to come on your show, let me know, or we get together to do something, right? So then Ariel Helwani reached back out to him and say, sure, come on the show. And then he says, well, Paddy says, talk to my manager. When he reached out, talking to the manager said, hey, we have other interviews or other appearances that are being paid. I've won 13 world championship, and I've been interviewed by Inked, Ariel Helwani, Joe Rogan, and I'm not saying I'm not as big a star as Paddy Pimlet, right? He has way more followers than I do. He brings in noise. I can sell 800,000 pay-per-view points. I don't know, right? But for how much I've achieved in this sport, I've never been paid to do an interview, right? Like, I've been paid to do post stuff. I've been paid to make appearances to nightclubs. I've been paid to, compete in gaming events, but I've never been paid to actually do an interview, right? So when he does, then Paddy said he couldn't do it because he has other obligations that are going to pay him. Perfect. Makes total sense, right? So I think Ariel Helwani is like, perfect, dude, do those interviews and whatnot. But I think Ariel Helwani is very smart to not pay anybody to go on his interview, because as me being an athlete, when I go on Joe Rogan's podcast, when I go on MMA Hour, if I look at going on any type of interview, I see it as a point or opportunity for me to build my brand on their platform that they spent years or even decades to amass their following, right? It's like me streaming on Twitch for 9 years. I've amassed a legit community, right? Like, I literally was talking to I was talking to Rylan today on a Marco Polo about Dragonflight, Disneyland. Rylan is going to start learning how to play the guitar because he wants to do that for, he wants to, share that with his children. So I legit built an amazing community I have done in 9 years. Now, if I was to start my own podcast, I want to pay any athlete. Like when I asked Ariel Helwani to come on my Nerds of Leisure podcast, do you think he asked me to pay him? No. Like if I was to reach out to Israel Adesanya and I say, hey man, can you come on my podcast? Like, I love to touch your brain about why are you so into anime? What video games do you play? How does your love for anime translate over to mixed martial arts? I see you doing your Naruto thing. Like, how long did it take you to step out and bring that to your fight scene? And I would hope and be shocked if he says, yeah, man, I'll come on the podcast, but you gotta pay me like 20 G's. I'm like, dude, what? Why? Like, why would I pay you 20 G's? Like, if Izzy, even Paddy Pimlet, he asked me to come on his podcast. I didn't ask for a fucking dime. I didn't ask for anything. He didn't offer me anything either. But at the same time, I just think that, it makes sense. If you have an opportunity to get paid, do something, take it, right? But then don't go around and try to ask people to pay you to be on the podcast or to do interviews. That's just my personal opinion. Everybody else has their own opinion, but that's my opinion. And then other athletes or even Paddy himself can say, well, that's why you don't make more money than I do. Who knows? But I saw it and I told Ariel Hawani, dude, I was like, dude, are you gonna be putting on a new podcast? But then we do have a podcast. It's called Nerds of Leisure. Me and my buddy Chris. Paddy got paid by Barstool Sports and got the impression that everyone pays over here. Not the case, Paddy. No, exactly. But he's starting that precedence, right? It's like if I go on to Barstool Sports and I bring in 500,000 unique viewers since I was on that podcast, and let's say Tisha Torres goes on Barstool Sports and they get 35 viewers. Like I've been on Barstool Sports and I don't know how many people I bring to there, but if Paddy can show like a spike in the viewership, then yeah, he can say, yeah, I'm not coming on the podcast, just gonna pay me X, Y, and Z. And let's say he tells everybody, he goes, guys, don't even Tyron, quiet. And let's say he says that president. Now let's say everybody goes, guys, don't even contact me unless you're gonna pay me like 10 G's on your interviews or podcast. That's fine. You guys will never see interviews from him ever again unless he's on his own podcast. Like there's nothing wrong to do with that, but it's the same thing. If I go out and do a seminar for $2,000 and next thing you know, someone wants to book me for another seminar and they're like, well, I heard you did $2,000. I heard you did a seminar over here for $2,000. I expect you to do a seminar over here for $2,000. You're setting that precedent, right? You're setting that thing. Just like when I have my thumbnails made, me and the gentleman who made my expensive thumbnail, we have an agreement. This is how much it's gonna cost. It's not gonna go more. It's not gonna go down, right? So I know every single time I make a thumbnail, it's gonna be $400 for the high quality. That's what he charges for his work. We've established that. So going forward, if I want a different thumbnail made from somebody who is not gonna be at the high quality, I have to set a new precedent of that. Does that make sense? It's the same thing with my brother. He makes same thing. I'm going on a rant right now, but I'm just trying to be totally transparent about how this goes and how I deal with it, right? So my brother Lewis, he is a musician. Vadim, I hope I'm saying it right. Vadim, right? Vadim. I just saw your name. Vadim. Yeah, my brother, he makes my music. We have an agreement, like going forward. Hey, I would love to have music made for my stream. Can you do it? And I said I can afford this because one, I don't know if I'm going to see the returns of it. Like Dream. Vadim. There's no R in your name. Are you gonna do Paddy's podcast? No, I'm not. I don't think I'll do his podcast. I don't think Ariel Hawani's a rodent. I don't think he's a POS. I don't think Vadim. Okay, I don't think he's those words that he said. So I think it's best that I don't do his podcast. Huge fan of Paddy. I love his work. I think he's an amazing fighter. I think what he's done for the sport and what he's done for himself to build this brand off YouTube and in the fight game, how he'd rather be fat instead of he'd rather be happy and fat and instead of shred. I mean, boys, I tell you what, I'm shredded. Not even in fight. I'm not even in fight camp, and I'm happy as I can be, boys. So I'm just, I love what he's done for himself, but I think, you know, him setting that precedent of like how calling Ariel Hawani's a fucking, you know, rodent and all that stuff. It's like, dude, come on. Like, I don't know. That's my personal opinion, but yeah.